All right, guys, we have our Tankie therapy session, February 18th. This is day 135 of the war, you guys. 135. And there's no end in sight. So I guess we'll do our go around. We have only four of us here. We have Alex, Nora, Matteo, and so I guess we can probably have manage a bit more back and forth, and we'll have a little bit more time. I kind of wanted to convene. I'll go first, as usual. I kind of wanted to convene because, like, with when the Rafa assault was looming, I felt like all the same feelings of like just anxiety and terror that I had at the very beginning of this in October. It was all back. And it's like I had settled into this kind of rhythm of working, the sit reps, whatever, the everything that I was doing. And then like when everything was concentrated into Rafa and then they were gonna attack Rafa, I just kind of went back to like a pure panic. So it was like this panic, uh constant panic, like yeah, just and then I couldn't yeah, like a lot of the things that I had learned to adjust to, I found like I had figured out ways to kind of cope, and then it like reset. It was like the reset button was hit, and I still feel that way. Like I'm still waiting now. I'm waiting because you know um there's the starvation, there's the bombing. They're still killing hundreds of people a day through bombing, but I'm waiting for this assault that's gonna just be like a concentrated version of what we've seen. And so that's like, I guess that's the main feeling that I have to report at this time today. Um, and I don't know, like watching events, watching the way the war progresses, it's like I can kind of track my moods, like I don't know. It's like it's these ups and downs, but there's been like the I feel like the hunger plan is setting in, and like the starvation deaths are starting. And oh yeah, and there was another, like there's another thing that reset, which is there's a thing that happened in Toronto. You guys, I don't think I shared very much about it, but like there was a demonstration that walked past, like you have to know the geography of Toronto. There's University Avenue, which is like a major avenue. It's one of those like four lanes, and got an island in the middle, and people always walk. Demonstrations always go up University Avenue, and there's hospitals on both sides. It's like called like the hospital strip almost. Like there's a whole ton of hospitals on this University Avenue, and there's this guy who dresses in a Spider-Man costume, and he climbs up on buildings and waves the Palestinian flag. He's Spider-Man for Palestine. Okay. And so he climbed on one building, he climbed on another building, he climbed on another building, he climbed on another building, and then the demonstration went to where it was going and whatever. But the Israel lobby um, made a big deal out of the fact that one of the buildings that he climbed on was Mount Sinai Hospital, which apparently was founded by the Jewish community in Toronto. So they said the demonstration was targeting the Jewish hospital. So whatever, that's the routine lie and calumny that they do. But then all the politicians, like all of them, the Toronto mayor, who's supposed to be social democrat, like left wing, the leader of the NDP, the New Democratic Party, um, they all said, it's unacceptable to target. They all repeated this lie, and it was just this moment where I was like, how casually they lie, how casually they're willing to repeat things they know to be lies. And I still found that outrageous after everything that we've been through. I still found that totally totally stunning. Like the fact that our leaders, our elected leaders, are these people who just like would rather repeat known lies than even to just be quiet about it, or like wait, or anything. So though I guess those were the two. It's like a renewal of panic is where I'm at right now. Um, and like waiting for the hammer to drop or something. I don't know. How about you, Nora?
Yeah, I think it was maybe on this group thread where like someone yeah, I think one of us was saying like, I'm so shocked, that yeah, that people can lie so casually, or that like, like we shouldn't be shocked anymore or something like that. But then another one of us said like, the reason I think being shocked kind of reaffirms our own humanity, where we haven't been inured yet, that we still have a shred of consciousness about what is so horrifying to us, that uh, it was yeah, it was very like reassuring almost to be still so angry and so shocked about what's happening, and how our representatives here in the West are acting. I mean, they're Nazis. They're acting like monsters. They are completely irredeemable, just completely irredeemable. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of in the same vein where it's like I'm reassured that I'm still angry and shocked. And the last week in particular, since they started bombing Rafah, um, not the full scale military ground assault that they're threatening, but still all of these attacks on Rafah. I've been covering the situation at Nasser Hospital over the last week, where Israelis have been they stormed the hospital, they arrested something like 70 medical staff over the last couple of days, including doctors that we were in touch with last week, who were sending us updates about what was happening. I mean, the patient ward being bombed, and women having to give birth like in a route, like on the floor where there's like open sewage water flooding the like unfathomable stories. And then Israel storms the hospital after bombing it, after sniping people with quadcopters, after sending a detainee in a few days ago. I don't even, it was like last Monday or Tuesday. They sent this like handcuffed Palestinian man in a COVID protection suit um, to to tell people at Nasser Hospital the orders of the Israeli military that they should leave, and then they executed him on the spot. Um, and then and then seeing how how they're taking these doctors, they're most for sure being tortured at this moment. Probably to force confessions that, that there were Israeli captives in the hospital, these like concocted fantasies that they're going to try and get these doctors to confess to. Um, it's all just, I feel sick to my stomach, like all day long, every day. I can't sleep. I'm up in the middle of the night, now it's like a week straight. I'm like wide awake at 4 a.m. and from like 4 to 5:30, I'm like trying not to look at my phone. I'm trying to like do all the things that, that you're supposed to do when you're like up in the middle of the night. I'm like, doing like practicing my breathing and counting to 100 backwards and forwards and all these things. And then obviously I'm like, well, fuck it. And I'm looking at my phone, and I'm reading what's happening. And yeah, I feel like my brain is broken. I feel like my heart is broken. I'm I don't, I mean, I'm just gonna like repeat all the things that I've said. Look at my cats. Like, at least we have these like funny, ridiculous beings with us. We have our friends and we have our pets and we have our colleagues and I have you guys and I fighting.
I did
Um,
I did see there's like a dog there's like something about like a story that I shared with you guys, like stray dogs attack Israeli soldiers in Gaza,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
sent that to you guys, and
yeah, our
Cena has a
furry
dog.
comrades. Yeah,
Cena has a dog, and I
exactly.
was like, this is exactly what your dog would be doing in
Exactly.
Gaza.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like there are these moments, obviously we're surrounded by people we love and we're in community with people we love, and yet our hearts are completely shattered every day, all day. And yeah, I don't know. There's little that is me going, you guys, knock it off.
Who's the favorite?
Save it for the revolution.
They're training.
Hilarious. Yeah, they're training. Um, anyway, that's where I'm at. It's just a lot all at once, all the time.
You want to go next, Matteo?
Um, well, first, I think I haven't been here since I came back from China. So I was thinking that I was just gonna spend, if while you guys were talking about two words about China, not so much about China, what I've seen. That's a different discussion. But at what cost is China? What it's doing is that's what we are all wondering. Why China is doing this anyway. Emotionally, why? Because when I went to China, there was a sense of calmness that I couldn't ignore compared to when I was here in the West. And it was funny because I visited different universities and, obviously related to the work, and everybody we would be meeting, and obviously we'd be talking about, issue like, even the talks were about Palestine. Sometimes they were about imperialism, but it's kind of, you don't have to go back to basics. It's kind of, we know what this is. We had the Japanese, we fought it. It's kind of, even just looking at the news, you don't speak Chinese, but you see that they're showing resistance videos. And there is a balance in the way it's reported. And it's not just, there is a human side of the people who are suffering. It's not just, like, yeah, all the fucking propaganda that we have to watch and all that. So that sense of being historically and spatially in a place where things can be different, and and that was something I couldn't ignore. Neither, my part I want to talk about, but we could see that. We could really see that with our own eyes. It wasn't just like something in my mind, or you could see. So that's, and then you come back. I don't know. I mean, it's desperation. I mean, right now I'm alone as well. As you guys know, there is the personal worries. There is the details of the people we know. It's I don't know. There is anger. What Nora was talking about sleeping and all that, it just made me laugh. I mean, because I do exactly the same thing. Even more now that I am alone, it's like, at middle of the night, and I have this 4 hours of sleep, and then I'm like just moving and twisting and turning, and I'm like, I sleep from one side, I end up on the other side. It's just restless. Yeah, I mean, it's rage. It's, again, I am at that very Hegelian stage of three moments. It's rage, it's powerlessness, but it's also knowing that this is going to be a long haul, and trying to find that balance to not to swing between these two, So it's reminding myself also rationally of where, so I just feel that rationally I understand the idea of Israel has been compromised, but I just, it's hard because this is really, this is not going to be like it's not going to go from one day to another. It has a cost. It's an asymmetrical war, and And I just say these things to you guys, but I keep repeating them to myself. You know, it's not because I want to, because I need to make sense of what's happening. And so just one last thing I wanted to say is that where we're at, because we're all sharing, like you were talking about what happened to Toronto. You know, in Italy, there is every year an annual music festival. It's called Sanremo. It's in the north of Italy. It's where Genoa is, on the border with Monte Carlo, France, you know, that side. And so there was this Tunisian Italian rapper. He's Italian, but, you know, I have to say Tunisian because otherwise, you know, yeah. Anyway, he had this beautiful song. And it was just smiled. It just simply said, why do we need, I can't continue. I have to go.
Take a minute. I have one of those. I'll share one of those that I've managed to get through. I keep getting choked up over this thing that Mohammed, I think his name is Mohammed, first name Al Bukhaiti, the spokesperson for the Houthis, for the Ansar Allah, and he told Max, I think it was in an interview with Max Blumenthal, where he was like, Max was like, what would you say to all the Arabs in the countries like Egypt that are not doing anything? You know, and while you guys are getting bombed in Yemen for what you did. And he said, you know, I could feel bad. I know they feel bad for us because we're getting bombed, but I feel bad for them because they can't do anything about it, and we can. So that's my like
no,
so
thanks
I'll
for
share mine.
thanks for interjecting that. No, the song was about, you know, why do you need to bomb hospitals to draw a line for a piece of bread? No mention to Palestine, nothing. They went berserk. They went berserk. They lost it. This is anti-Semitism. Why are we allowing this? All kinds of things. And then, you know, it obviously comes back. Some people are pushing, and he says, you know, why are we killing children? Why are we having this genocide? We need to put a stop to this. And I find myself that in this little moment, I just broke down. Like it happened now. I just break down. I don't know why. Just I feel like, fuck yeah, finally. Say it out loud.
Well, it's funny because he didn't say who was bombing the hospital or
Yeah. He didn't say anything.
But they know so well their own guilt that they freak out even when you talk about it out of context. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw, like, really early on, like in October or November or something, Candace Owens, she tweeted like, it should go without saying that nobody has a right to commit genocide. She didn't say who or anything. And then some pro-Israel people were like, how dare you? You don't know what you're talking about, whatever. And she was like, I didn't say who was committing genocide. I didn't say that. You came on and you reacted like that, right? So it's like whatever we're going through, like, I guess the point of this is whatever we're going through psychologically, the pro-Israel people are going through some bizarre times psychologically, trying to justify this, trying to, yeah.
Just one more thing, because it's important for those who are listening. So then there was the festival, okay. Then there was the final day. There was in lunchtime, afternoon, every singer got an interview, and somebody raised this up again. So the Israeli embassy sent a memo to the Italian state television, which had to be read at the end of the program to obviously say, you know, I don't have to repeat, you know, exactly. And people went then afterwards, a lot of, you know, they went to the local Italian state television, you know, centers to protest. And obviously they've been beaten up by the police and all that. But, you know, it's, yeah, it's just, anyway, that was.
So Italy, do you guys have like big protests for Palestine, like big pro-Palestine protests?
We had, yeah, several ones, but it's really, you need to keep track of them online because obviously nobody's going to report about them, but I know there are. And this RAI now, this at the Italian state television, there has been a huge pushback on that. And you can see the young generation knows what it's happening, but fuck, they're so entitled to kill. It's just so, anyway, I'd better shut up now.
Alex, you're up.
So there's a weird aspect of living inside the entrails of the belly of the beast. And, you know, growing up here in the US, with the exception of a couple years that I lived in Mexico, there's a constant reminder of how our ruling class and many of the people who support the ruling class have a, like, just they're completely desensitized to death, to certain deaths. Um, and we know this living day to day, right? There's been movements, right? Black Lives Matter movements in my lifetime that have emerged in reaction to this type of attitude and type of structural and police violence against certain communities. But like what happened during the Super Bowl was so fucked. Like uh, this, the most grotesque spectacle of American gringo nationalism and capitalist power on display for the world at the same time that the Israelis use that as an excuse to bomb people living in tents in Rafah. Um, and that, I mean, it seems paradoxical, no? But I mean, I think it just, I had this really the reaction to it that this is what this empire does. Um, and I've been thinking a lot about children and thinking about the story of Hind and thinking of the story of Sidra and Suzanne. And Sidra was the girl's image, right, that emerged during the Super Bowl. And it's just, yeah, the rage. It's just rage. It's just constant rage and rage about what's going on, but rage at seeing the lack of awareness, the lack of sensitivity, the lack of care, the comfort with death that this gringo ruling class is constantly displaying. And it's also like obviously actively facilitating, enabling, and arming this genocide. But it wears you down. It just like completely wears you down. Or reading about the testimony from that doctor who went to Gaza to volunteer, right? And talking about the children who are being brought in between the ages of 5 and 8, and they have sniper bullets in their head. It's like, I don't know how to I don't know how to wrap my mind around that other than just to be enraged all the time. And it's and to see it day in, day out is really fatiguing. Um, and then to see, you know, it's to see that the Americans are going through one of their many border panics. And there was this one Trumpist official who quite clearly made the point, and this is not the first time that this point has been made. It was made in 2006 as well, where he's like, this is our Gaza. We have to shut down the border and we have to shoot people who are trying to cross the border because this is our Gaza. And so the connections are being made for Americans by these like just horrible people. And just thinking about, you know, what it would take for honestly for people older than us to realize this, right? Because I think the youth have taken a different attitude in this country to what's going on in Gaza. And we recently had a student group at ASU who's in trouble because they posted some social media post that said "Death to settlers, death to Zionism." So a Mexican American, a Jewish state legislature read that post and decided to introduce a bill in the state legislature that is trying to outlaw student groups. So like, and to shut them down. That to me like shows again like the generational difference and struggle that's going on in the US over this question of genocide in Gaza. But to me, what gets me, as always, I've said it before, is children, and this idea that what Israel is doing now in Gaza is about genociding the past, genociding the present, and genociding the future. And that's what drives this horrific operation. They destroy hospitals, so people can't live, destroy hospitals, destroy housing, roads, the center of towns and cities, so people can't live there. They destroy archives, they steal archaeological collections so they can rewrite the past. And they destroy the possibility of a better future by ordering snipers to shoot 5 children between the ages of 5 and 8. So they don't get to the point that they even consider the possibility of resisting a horrifically unjust occupation. So like the temporal aspects of this genocide is also something that I can't like emotionally deal with, right? Like they're really just trying to destroy life in this particular part of Palestine, to prevent any sort of justice. And I keep thinking of the story of Hind, the 6-year-old girl who was like by herself, right, in this car, surrounded by dead relatives. And I keep thinking about the heroes, those 2 ambulance drivers who went out, right, risked their lives to try to save her lives, and they were killed by the Israelis. I think about the idea that obviously there's an armed resistance, and their ability to survive and succeed in large part is what's driving this horrific type of genocidal violence that Israel's taking out on defenseless civilian populations. But I also think about other forms of resistance, like those 2 ambulance drivers, like that brave doctor who, the woman doctor who like ran out, like she braved snipers to go rescue. Like, I still come back to a point that I remember I thought about in the very first days after October 7th, seeing videos from people in Gaza, like, you're not, who would say this, like, you're not going to defeat us no matter what you do. And I think Bikram Gill has an article in Louis Alday's Ebb issue where he talks about how, this genocide is trying to recalibrate a colonial equation of force. And this genocidal violence is related to the amount of resistance and the amount of Palestinians' will to live and survive. And that's what, like, this conflict is coming down to. And to the point where Israelis are killing Palestinian children in the manner that they're doing it, tens of, at least 13 to 16,000. And they're so brazen about it now. So in a way, they're so brazen about it that I hope, and I deeply hope, that people around the world are being radicalized by this. And for them to maybe think, you know what, if I was in a similar situation, I would defend my family in any way that I could. I would defend my community in any way that I could if I was facing this type of onslaught. We'll see. But yeah, to finalize, something to kind of echo what Matteo said, the idea to keep in mind that this is something for the long haul. And that's also something really important to keep in mind, to pace ourselves. And in our group chat, when I think, Nora, you posted something about, I have no words, and honestly, like, I don't have words either, but you guys give me the words. You guys give me the hope and the desire to keep on. And then I remembered Rafat's poem where he says, if I die, like, you have to keep doing this. And I think that has really kept me going this past week, or since last time we talked. We have to keep going because they're dying.
It's like people like us who work with words, it just feels so disproportionate, right? Like, such a weak tool for the situation that we're in. And like, I could see that in Nasrallah's speech too, like Nasrallah's speech in I think it was yesterday, the day before, but I noticed that both Nasrallah and Bukhaiti were like really complaining about the Arab countries and like how they're not doing anything. And it was, there's like I don't know if that's like what came out for me, but like I really feel, it's not like I'm not especially mad at the Arab regimes or anything. I feel that with like where I'm at, and it's like, why isn't there more resistance? Why aren't people more upset than they are? Why why isn't it proportionate to what's happening? And I feel, I don't know. I feel like, is there some combination of words that I can do that I'm not doing that could get this, that could change this? Is there something that I can do or make happen that
there's feelings of like total inadequacy.
That's it.
On my end, I'm like,
impotence.
Like I'm not at the like, I get sometimes in my darkest moments, I'm like, what's the point? What's the point of any of this? And I think I was talking to John Elmer about it actually. And he said like, well, we're just, we're documenting, like, this is the kind of documentation so that that history that like, that you were talking about, like, doesn't get erased or rewritten. This is the, this is the work that we're doing, is to document, is to record, is to provide, the vocabulary, the words, so that they can't be erased, so that what's happening doesn't get buried. But it does feel, yeah, it feels very, very inadequate.
There is an assault on our ability to use words too, right? It's like, it's not just like I had this thought this week where I was like, they don't just think they're above the law, they think they're above like logic, they think
Yeah.
they're above reason. They think they're above all of it. Like, they don't have to justify what they do, they don't have to explain it to anybody, they don't
They're
have
bragging
to,
about it.
yeah.
They
And
brag about it. They're like, they're recording these TikTok videos, not just for themselves, but like for their neighbors and family and friends back home, because
Snuff
they're
films.
like, total
And they-
snuff films.
and they don't have to make a case, like they don't have to make a case for why they should get thousands more bombs and shells and whatever. Those shells will come, there's like criticism, there's differences of opinion between Biden and Netanyahu. Apparently he's
Increasing
calling them
frustration.
names, increasing frustration.
Right.
But whatever there is, the planes, the thousands of tons of bombs keep going, right? Just one after another. And it's like, yeah, it also is like this realization for me that we're run by a mafia, like a genocidal mafia that delights in killing children and is also like deciding what is taught in schools, is deciding who gets to go to medical school. There's like, there's a whole thing that's happening in Canada where a group of pro-Israel doctors are trying to use their position to prevent anti-genocide people from finishing their med school programs. And it's like they are in charge of these things and they despise us, like they hate all of us, and they think that they're racially superior, and it's like everybody just goes along with it.
I was reading, which you know very well, Justin. I was, bedtime reading for me is Che Guevara's diaries, especially the section on armed struggle. And it has this moments when he's with the group and it's like, that people get sentenced when defeatism comes around, when people start, like dropping the cause, they desert. And that's what I'm thinking, when I'm thinking about this. And it keeps coming back to my mind. Why? Because it's not that you want to just stay positive and, believe that this is going to happen, but you need to believe in it. You need to be in the struggle. And this is the thing, like, this is showing so much how much we're fighting a system. They are killing because they are killing materially. They want to kill us emotionally, and then eventually our spirit. But this is why, you said, right, Alex, we need to pace ourselves. It's really, we need to understand our position in history. And on that point, we need to keep going. It doesn't matter what's going to happen. We just need to keep going because we know we are on the right side of history. This is a crime. We know it's a crime. So we just need to keep going. You know, consequences, not consequences, but we need to keep going. This is not like, oh, in a month time, okay, we're going to drop Palestine, we're going to move somewhere else. That's it. This is really about recreating something for us, for the world. I honestly think so.
Yeah, I think, to use the title of one of the most famous speeches in Latin American history, history will absolve us. And that fuels that should fuel us.
Yeah.
I think so. And also, Dylan Sabah had a really interesting article in the Nation this week, and he made a point that we've talked about on during our therapy. I think I referenced Gustavo Petro's climate change speech, where he says like Gaza is a dress rehearsal for the rest of us, right? So we have to keep on struggling. And in this the Nation article, Sabah really starts to draw the connections that others have written about, right? That it's not just technologies at the Mexico-Palestine border the same as like in the occupied territories in the Gaza or West Bank, but it's the logic, governing logic that these genocidal regimes are actually thinking about in terms of dealing with quote unquote disposable populations that no longer fulfill any sort of political or economic functions. So we have a stake in this, right? Like this is coming back to us in a certain way, right? And this is not like that jackass wrote for Haaretz. Like this is not movement mooching, right? Like this is solidarity, but this is also very clear material political links. And this is one of the reasons why we struggle. And in addition to believing in solidarity, in addition, in addition to believing in revolution or revolutionary struggle as a form of love, to go back to your boy Che, Matteo, this is gonna blow back on us. It already is blowing back on us. I see it, not too far from the U.S. Mexico border. I mean, this is a struggle this is a global struggle, and we're just seeing it play out right now in horrific, compressed form with its own, unique balances in Gaza. But we will be absolved. I have no doubt of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was reading something Ilan Pape was saying this past week, and he reiterated that this is the beginning of the end of the Zionist project. This is the death throes of empire. I mean, every empire that has ever existed doesn't go down quietly. And Israel is fighting for its like despicable survival, but it knows this is the end. And there's something very comforting in that. And we know how empires slaughter as many as they can before they're done. And I think you and John were talking about Algeria on your sit rep the other night, Justin, and how was it 8 million?
No, it was about a million. They think it was about a million, but Nasrallah mentioned it. Nasrallah said there were a million and maybe more, maybe 2 million.
Right.
And he said, but if they hadn't resisted in Algeria, it would still be a colony, and they would have museums they would have museums with skulls of Algerians.
Right. And Nasrallah's thing about, either you resist or you surrender. And surrendering doesn't mean that you live.
Yeah.
Right. And that also is really important to remember as well. It's like, yeah, I mean, I mean, it's imperative that we look at what's happening in Palestine as a resistance to this like imposition of surrender to this, the Western imperial forces wanting Palestinians to die, and Palestinians are not accepting that. Yeah, I don't know. It's just really it's important to remember that this is a dying empire, that the West is a dying empire and it's in itself, and all it knows how to do is to kill. But yeah.
Yeah, and that form of killing is automated at this point.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like empire by AI, right? They just have a gerontocracy that's fronting it. You know, Weekend at Bernie's empire, right? The face of the U.S. empire looks like that movie Weekend at Bernie's, right? But systemically, right? There's 800 military bases around the world. They can do stuff. They do the imperial work that they're supposed to be doing, regardless of who's in the White House, to a certain extent. No matter how sentient the occupant of the White House is, it doesn't matter. And what do? They're good at killing.
That's all they're good at.
Killing. That's what the U.S. empire has done. They're not good at winning occupations. They're not good at winning wars. But they're really good at killing. They're really good at targeting and killing civilian populations. And that's an old counterinsurgency thing, right? How do you defeat an insurgency? Well, you go at their supposed base of popular support and you try to dry up the sea for the gorilla fish, right? To paraphrase to borrow from Mao. I mean, that's what we're seeing right now in Gaza. But that's what the U.S. empire has been doing for a long time. They're not really good at winning these wars, but they are really good at creating massive amounts of destruction. They're really good at trying to force open and remain open the global circuits of capital, right? And this is why like Ansar Arala has been so like effective, right? And this is why we hear, one of the funny, like it's one of the things that has made me laugh is when people's reaction to like Hezbollah or the resistance in Yemen is to be like, wow, you just don't know how terrible it is to live under their rule. And they try to like turn it around and it's like, this is not what this is about right now. We have to take seriously what they're doing and why they're doing it. And especially when they're telling you.
But that whole story is also, again, you can only do that if you ignore what Israel's like. If you just don't care at all about, them killing 12,000 children, then you can easily be like, oh yeah, they're an oppressive regime in Yemen. But it's like, are we going to compare? Are we going to compare the record of? You want to compare the human rights records of these regimes?
That's like that's the liberal like talking point thing, right? Like,
always.
They're not such nice people.
Exactly. You have to be the perfect victim and you have to be the perfect opposition in order to elicit any sympathy from the liberal West.
But even then, they'll just ignore it. Like that's when they ignore you. If you're the perfect victim, that's when they'll ignore you. I mean, Israel's getting, like I said, psychologically speaking, Israel is getting very interesting. You guys probably saw this. Someone was saying that 4-year-olds are not innocent. There was someone on Israeli television saying, 0 to 4-year-olds are not innocent. So like what they're doing to themselves psychologically is probably worse than what they're putting us through.
Yeah. I mean,
they're televising Abu Ghraib, like on national TV. They're doing that.
And they're celebrating it.
They're not trying to hide it, right? Like the US tried to hide it and then it gets leaked. No, they're televising it publicly.
So like we're worried, we're all worried about us never being the same and what we're going to become and how, the effect of this stress on us. But like, it does feel like a good part of Israeli society is already
they're eating
off the deep end.
Each other. Yeah.
Right. And that's Fanon, right? Like that's like, that's what colonialism does to the colonizer. It's not just about what it does to the colonized, but
that's right,
what it transforms the colonizers into. And we've watched that in real time. I mean, for 75 years, right? But like we're just watching it in condensed form.
It's so intense.
Yeah, it's so intense. Yeah, it's so
intense. And like the televising, I watched that clip this morning. Televising that part, right, of the Palestinian men who are like blindfolded and they're in these white suits and they're
Abu
asking
Ghraib.
that guy.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And the guy is saying like, I was at a furniture store on October 7th, and the soldier turns around and tells the other one, oh yeah, they always say that at first.
Wow.
Right. So we basically like we have to torture them to get at where they really were on October 7th. I mean, so they're on public TV. It's like, But I think also this is going back to, and I think this is what the point that you made in our chat, Justin, about the power of words, right? Like I think in an interesting way, this has also opened up. It's created a struggle over words. It's created spaces to use words, framings, and terminology that before could get you in a lot of trouble. It's still, obviously it still can.
That's
but,
right.
For a long time in the US, to even say Zionist or Zionism as a form of colonialism or settler colonialism. Like you could have, there could be repercussions, right? And it was only certain EIs, has been saying it for a long time, right? But it wasn't like as quote unquote mainstream. I mean, there's an Atlantic article that came out poo-pooing settler colonialism as a framing. Like they're so freaked out that
Yeah.
idiot writing for the Atlantic had to be like, well, let's knock this down on the liberal.
I think they got an
publication
English
of
guy
choice.
to write that. I think it was a
He
good
has
guy.
3 books on Stalin, so young Stalin. So
Yeah, solid.
Oh my
it
God, it was
doesn't
that guy. He's
Oh,
really on the
doesn't fly
Epstein.
with me.
He's on the Epstein plane list.
Oh,
I
even
think,
better.
okay, yeah.
Oh.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's that rule that sooner or later everything comes back to the Epstein plane log.
Yeah,
I think they
they're
like Young
indefensible.
more than Stalin.
Yeah.
Jesus. Oh, ice cold.
At what
Matteo.
cost? Right.
At what cost?
Brava. What cost?
Okay, well, I think these sounds you're hearing are the sounds of our therapy session breaking up into its constituent parts. So maybe we should quit while we're ahead. Okay, well, we'll reconvene in maybe a week or two or whatever as we need. Thanks, guys.
You all.
Thank you, guys.
Hang on, hang in there.
Me too.